This video is Sharpening Explained. It is the English version of my other video in Vietnamese. Why am I doing a explanation video and not a instruction or tips and tricks on sharpening? Because there are already like a million videos on that topic already on YouTube or in the internet, and me making another one is just a waste of time. And if many of you have tried those methods, you realize that a lot of times those methods just doesn't work, or it just doesn't work for you. You get the result is a knife that is more dull than what you've started. Why? Because most of the time they don't explain what you are doing. So when you make mistakes in sharpening, you don't know how to fix them. You cannot fix them. You don't understand what you're doing wrong, then you cannot improve. So this is meant to be an explanation on how sharpening works, and in hope that if you understand how it works, you're gonna improve the next time you sharpen. You take up your knife and you sharpen it. So this is a knife, okay, but let's use this one. This is a very thick knife. Let's look at it this way, the cross section of it. Let's look at it this way. Particularly, let's look at the edge. This is a drawn version of the edge. I'm gonna put on an electronic microscope version of the edge. So this is your knife edge that is sharp. You spot the knife, it is sharp, it is very pointy. You cut it into stuff, it bites and it split that material into two. Hooray! But after a while, that edge, you cut into abrasive material, you cut into bones, you cut into nails, you chip the edge. So now the edge is no longer sharp, but it is dull. How do you make a dull edge sharp again? First, you remove metal on one side. After you have removed metal on one side, you have one side that is sharpened and the other side that is not sharpened. After that, you abrade away metal on the other side, and now you have a sharp edge, a sharp knife. You dull knife, remove metal on one side, remove metal on the other side, sharp knife again. But this sharp knife, this edge is so small, it's in the microns of size. It is very, very small. It is so small that you can split a human hair just like that. It is so incredibly small. How can a human eye know that you have made that pointy edge? So I have to introduce you to a new concept. It's called a burr. Some people will call it a wire edge. It's similar. It's a little bit different, but similar enough. So let's just keep it a burr. Let's just call it a burr for now. So what is a burr? This is the metal tube. You see this lip of metal that's sticking out. After you cut the material, you cut the pipe, you see some material left on the edge here that if you touch it, you can cut yourself. you're gonna bleed out. That is called a burr. Or if you have a plastic chair, a plastic toy or anything, see this little piece of plastic that's sticking out from the die, the mold plastic die that presses these out. Yeah, that is also a burr. So a burr is a piece of metal, that a piece of material that is sticking out. So what does a burr have to do with knife sharpening? Now we get back to the dull edge. After we remove metal on one side, we get one sharpened side, but also we get a burr. This little lip of metal that's sticking out like this. One sharpened edge side, one sharpened side, one unsharpened side, and a burr. I'm gonna put an image of a burr on the screen right now to help you visualize more clearly. So when you have formed the burr on one side, you remove metal on the other side, and it's gonna create another burr. It's gonna create the other burr on another burr on to the other side. So now you have created the burr on one side, you create the burr on the other side. You know that you have a pointy edge, a sharp edge with an extra burr. You have a sharp edge with an extra burr. The question now is, how do you get rid of the burr? How do you get rid of this so you can only have the edge, sharp edge left? There are many techniques on how to remove the burr. A Japanese technique is to use newspaper, because newspaper have sand on them and they can be abrasive. So you can just, if you just strop, this is called stropping, you can strop the edge onto the newspaper and it could remove and could abrade away the burr. You can use leather, because the leather, especially veg tan leather, have naturally have abrasive particles inside of them. You can use leather, the smooth side or the coarse side, and this is the polishing compound or stropping compound, depends on what you use them on. But this is chromium oxide. It is very hard. It is going to remove, it is going to abrade away metal. You can also use, this is diamond paste for polishing. You could also use a piece of wood. You can run your edge lightly along the wood to cut away the burr. Or you could use a cork on your champagne bottle. So when you have removed that burr, you have a sharp knife. It's called deburr. It's called deburr. So TLDR, if you want a sharp knife, step number 1, you create a burr on one side, you create a burr on the other side, so you know that you have a sharp edge, but now you have the burr. So step number 3, you remove the burr, or you deburr. And I'm gonna demonstrate it so that you can have a better visualize of what a burr sounds like, or what a burr looks like. I don't think I can show a burr so small on this camera, but I think you can, I hope that you can hear it. So I'm think gonna use the other one. This metal is softer. This is very soft steel, so this is harder not, it's also hardened, but it's softer, so it's quicker for me to raise the burr. So I have just sharpened on one side, so there should be a burr that is facing this way. So if I move my finger this way, don't move your finger towards the knife, you're gonna cut yourself. Move away from the edge, you're gonna feel and you're gonna hear it very smooth, because there's nothing on the edge. You hear a sandy sound, that's just the abrasive of the stone. It's very smooth. But if you listen to the other side, something is catching onto my fingertips. Your fingertips is going to be sensitive enough to feel the burr. If for some reason your fingertips cannot feel the burr, you can feel it with your nail. Something's catching on my nail. That is a lip catching on my nail. If I go on this way, nothing is catching on my nail. So I know you want to check the burr on the entire edge. You don't want to sharpen on this portion and this is still dull. You want to raise the burr on both on the entire edge. And now I have erased the burr on one side. I'm going to erase the burr. I'm going to form the burr on the other side also. I have formed the burr on the other side. Now I could, technically I can go straight for the strap, but I want to give the strap a better time at working. So I'm gonna move the burr, I'm gonna flip the burr back and forth a bit, so it weakens the burr and the strap will work faster. This is I'm going to talk more about this in a more advanced video about flipping the burr back and forth, because flipping it too much can be detrimental. So I'm going to explain. So, but for beginners, don't worry too much about it. So now I'm gonna use my strap. Try not to cut your hand. I have accidentally cut my hand several times. Do as I don't, not as I do. So now we should have a relatively sharp knife. So that is the basics of knife sharpening. You create the burr on one side, you create the burr on the other side, you remove that burr. That is the explanation of how sharpening works. Now we're going to get into some of the explanation why your knife is not getting sharp. Reason number one is the stone is too fine. I'm not, fine means like good looking fine. I'm saying fine like the grit is too high. When you first look for recommendations on sharpening stones, a lot of chefs is going to recommend you 1000 or 6000 stones. And for me, that is a terrible stone for beginners. Why? Because professional chef, their knife, they never let their knife get super dull. If they get a little bit dull, they're gonna sharpen it right away. They sharpen it frequently to keep the knife at its high sharpness so they can cut food more efficiently. So their knife, when they sharpen, they don't need to remove a lot of metal, they just need to remove a little bit of metal, just a little bit. And this stones, the particles is so small, it's gonna remove very slowly. It's gonna remove metal very, very slowly. But if you have a very dull knife, you just buy your knife, you use it for like 5, 6, 7 months. Now it's so dull, you need to sharpen it. It's gonna be so dull. If you try to sharpen it with a 1000 grit stone, it's going to take literally forever. You're gonna grind your stone out and you haven't even formed one burr. You're just wasting time. So if you have an incredibly dull edge, just use a 2000 grit stone, a 100, okay, 200. This is more like somewhere between 2 and 300. This is a 120 stone and a 240 combo. The 100 and 200 is more suited towards like fixing large chips, but it could still sharpen very fast. The 400 grit is gonna remove a bit slower, but it's good for weekly or monthly maintenance. But 1000, please don't use 1000 if you have an incredibly slow knife. It's gonna take forever. Number 2, you're not creating 2 burrs. If you sharpen on one side, you feel like you have created a burr. You flip and you forget to check the burr on the other side, and you thought that you've created a burr, and you go and you take out your strap and you strap it. You're not gonna get a sharp knife. Create 2 burrs. There are 2 sides. If you create 2 burrs, you're not gonna, you have a sharp knife. Number 3, you're not removing the burr completely. Just remove the burr completely. Strapping is not that hard. It is super forgiving, meaning that you don't have to be incredibly precise. You just need, it doesn't take super precise like sharpening. So just take your time with strapping to remove the burr, to completely remove all the burrs from edge to tip, from heel to tip. One way to test if your burr is completely clean is when you cut paper, you cut from the heel to the tip. You just cut on this one section. You're just checking on this one section. That is you're not checking anything. You're not checking on for this sharpness. You need to move your edge the entire length to make sure that you have sharpened all of your edge and you have removed all of the burr. If you just leave one little piece of burr left somewhere here, or you leave a small piece of wire edge somewhere, and when you go and cut the paper, it's gonna show. So remove the burr completely. And number 4 is probably the biggest problem, because it is not a technical problem, it's more of a technique. It has more to do with your technique and your ability to keep an angle. So in order to make a sharp knife, you need to remove metal on this side, you need to remove metal on this side. But when you start sharpening, your hands, you shake your hands. Our hands is naturally going to shake. Maybe not this much, but just a little bit wobbly. That is enough to, you remove on this angle, you change the angle mid sharpening, you're gonna end up with a complete mess, and it's not gonna be sharp. So it is incredibly important to keep a consistent angle, but this is not something that I could teach you. This depends a lot on your technique. So the only way for you to learn how to keep an angle is to practice. You need to practice on a stone. You can use the 2 to 3 coin tips, you can use the tricks, you can use the matchbox trick, but you just need to practice. A lot of times, practice a lot, you will mess up. You will mess up at first, and it's okay. We all messed up when we first started learning how to do anything. Just be patient, just keep practicing, and eventually your wrist is going to be very stable. You're gonna lock your wrist at the angle, you're gonna sharpen the entire thing, and you're not gonna move your wrist at all. So practice make perfect. So that wraps up this video on explanation and the mechanics of knife sharpening, and I hope that this video is gonna help someone, at least one person, to sharpen the knife better, so they don't cut themselves accidentally when they're trying to cut food. But that is going to be it for this video. So have a great day.